Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
The Chiefs etched their names into the history books. The 49ers are once again left picking up the pieces. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers join today and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
For the second time in 2 tries, the San Francisco 49ers had a double-digit lead on Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. And then he said, "Look what you made me do." Multiple drives in the fourth quarter to tie or take the lead. And then in overtime, the touchdown to Mecole Hardman on almost the exact same play that they used to beat the Philadelphia Eagles last year. Patrick Mahomes becomes the first quarterback since Tom Brady to win back-to-back Super Bowls and the only other quarterback besides Tom Brady to win a Super Bowl in overtime. Chris Clark from Locked On Chiefs joins me now. And Chris, it's 3 in 5 years, and yet this feels like the most flawed Chiefs team we've seen with Patrick Mahomes. How in the heck did they do this again?
Their defense. I mean, it's their defense that gave them the chance in this game, but it's also Patrick Mahomes. I mean, you know, one of my favorite guys that I used to talk to before he passed away a couple of years ago is Therese Paylor, and he would call this an over my dead body type game, and that's exactly what Mahomes did. He looked at this and just said, "Nope, not losing this one," and willed them to victory. I mean, the 4th and 1 run, and then the next play, either was the next play or the play right after that, and runs for another 15 or 20. I mean, you know, shades of the game last year where he kind of did the same to the Philadelphia Eagles. And you're sitting there going, and you're watching the game thinking they're letting the clock get really close down to 0 before they run the play. And Mecole Hardman gets it, and it's the exact same motion. It's corn dog. It's corn dog all over again, and Mecole Hardman gets the touchdown. So awesome to watch.
Yeah, Patrick Mahomes, 333 yards passing, and also was the team's leading rusher. You mentioned those 2 runs on that last drive, and it felt like an over my dead body game because Mahomes willed them to a win. And this game, it seems very, very bad for the rest of the league, Chris, because as I mentioned, this was at least offensively the most flawed team that they've had in the Patrick Mahomes era. And the best roster in football with arguably the best play caller in football still couldn't beat them. How do you put all of this into perspective here, 3 in the last 5 years?
Well, and they played in 4. That's the crazy thing. Right. I mean, you know, I know
Patrick Mahomes has never not been to the conference title game as a starter.
Right. 6 straight years. That's crazy too. You know, you look at this and Mahomes is doing something that, you know, he's ahead of pace of what Tom Brady did. And I know that a lot of people say that's, you know, sacrosanct. You shouldn't say that because, you know, Brady won 7. Mahomes is only now won 3. Mahomes is 28. Right. If he plays for another 15 years, which he could, easily playing for another 10, considering he's always in the conference championship game just because that's the way they've been, you would have to think he's got a pretty good chance of catching Brady. And the other question, when you start looking at that is, does it really matter if he gets past 7 to pass Tom Brady with some of the things that he can do that Brady never could? It's a whole different discussion, but when you look at this game and what it meant for Mahomes and what it meant for this team, you're absolutely right. This is the most flawed team they have had in the Super Bowl. They lost Joe Thuney. He wasn't able to go. That was a huge loss for them. Obviously he'll be back next year, but the best thing about everything that you're looking at is Kansas City's in a situation where I think they're $25 million under the cap for 2024 right now. With a couple of moves, I think they easily get to 40. And if Mahomes wants to free up, or if they want to free up a lot more money, they could free up a lot more money and restructure his contract and have close to 70 million. That gives you money to bring back a guy like Chris Jones. It gives you money to bring back a guy like L'Jarius Sneed. Maybe you can get back Drew Tranquill. And then you're in a situation where you still have money to go out and get a number 1 wide receiver before you get to the draft. And the craziest thing about this team is the way that they have drafted year after year after year has got them to where they are. I was actually talking about this on Twitter the other day. Willie Gay, L'Jarius Sneed, and Michael Dana all came in that 2020 class right after they played the Niners the last time. and look at the big plays that they made in this game. Willie Gay maybe didn't have, heady plays. Jase Medical was one of the best players on the field. I mean, it's a struggle against that unit of the 49ers, and he gave up a couple things, but they've just hit home runs in every single draft for the past several years, and that is why they are so good.
Are we there with the D word yet, Chris? Are you ready? Are you ready to slap dynasty on this right now? Patrick Mahomes afterwards said, "We're just starting."
Yeah, I think it's a dynasty. And when Kelce says that he's coming back for next year after people have been questioning whether or not he's going to retire, if they're able to revamp the offense just a little bit and give Patrick better weapons for next season, you have the youngest defense in the league playing in the Super Bowl and help the Chiefs win it. And they can bring most of those guys back on pretty relatively small deals and go for a third Super Bowl with adding offensive firepower. That's got to be scary for the rest of the NFL.
When the Chiefs were down, there were some sloppy penalties in the first half. They're down 10-0. You've got Travis Kelce and Andy Reid getting into like a physical altercation on the sideline.
Yep.
When you have Patrick Mahomes, like as you're sitting there watching, how confident were you in where they were? Because I frankly was going, this is so uncharacteristic of this team. This is supposed to be the experienced team, and they looked anything but in that first half. How confident were you that they could turn it around?
If I'm being honest, not very. And I hate saying that, but the problem was what you saw in the Chiefs playoff games going into this week was they've been playing mistake-free football.
Right.
And they were beating themselves. And I'm not trying to take anything away from the 49ers. They played fantastic. Their defense is playing great. They're flying to the ball. They're doing everything they need to do. But the Chiefs were also beating themselves up as well. The turnovers, when you sit there and you look at those, Mahomes' interception was the worst throw he's had in the playoffs by far. It's not even close. Pacheco fumbling the ball, that cost them probably at least 3 points, if not maybe a touchdown at that point. All the penalties that they were getting, the sacks, the offensive line couldn't stop anybody at that point, and it showed. I mean, it looked like the 49ers were going to run away with the game. So the confidence wasn't there because they reverted back to what they had been doing. But then you get into the second half and you see what they had been doing pretty much the entire playoffs. The defense basically shut the door on San Francisco for the most part, and the offense started moving the ball. They started figuring out at the end of the second quarter, and they were able to get things done in the third and fourth. And they almost won it. If Mahomes sees Rashee Rice at the end of the fourth quarter, this game doesn't even go to overtime because Rice is open down the middle of the field, wide open.
And that was presumably what they were talking about on the sideline when it looked like they were getting into it. And that was a particularly weird one because it was like, well, yes, they didn't score, but they got the field goal. They forced overtime. The last thing, if you weren't that confident or as confident, at least down 10-0, what about in overtime going and needing to score? You had to believe that they were going to get at least a field goal, right?
Oh yeah, I mean when you sat there and you watch what Mahomes did, and I'm sitting there watching this game at a watch party, and people are sitting there going, why did the Chiefs why did the 49ers want the ball? Or I'm sitting there saying,
did you think that was a strange choice? I did too, and I actually was sitting there going, I wish the Chiefs would have won because I would have deferred. I would have done exactly what happened. So when they took the ball, I was like, okay, thank you. That's exactly what I would have wanted, because now you know exactly what you need to win, and it doesn't really matter. I mean, yeah, it matters to an extent what they do, but you know exactly what you have to do, and you're in 4-down territory the entire time, which is a huge advantage. Stay up to date all year on the Kansas City Chiefs by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Chiefs on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Thanks for making Locked On Sports Today your first listen. Coming up, how do you bounce back from losing the Super Bowl? Well, the 49ers would like to know. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, same game parlays, exclusive props, and more. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. The Milwaukee Bucks home dogs tonight to the defending champion Denver Nuggets. FanDuel has Giannis and Dame time as 1.5 under dogs. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, Locked On Sports Today, here for you covering 24/7 the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. For the second time, the 49ers had the lead in the Super Bowl against Patrick Mahomes, and Patrick Mahomes breaks their heart. Eric Crocker from Locked On 49ers joins me now. And Croc, when Patrick Mahomes got the ball after the 49ers kicked the field goal to open overtime, how sure were you that they were going to score?
I would say I was more sure that they were going to score a touchdown than a field goal or not score at all. Even on the fourth and short play, I think all week we talked about, who we're scared of. We felt like the 49ers were the better team throughout this entire time, throughout this week, these 2 weeks of preparation. But the equalizer was Patrick Mahomes. And 49ers had several opportunities to potentially put them away. They weren't able to do that. And when you put them in a situation where Mahomes has the game to either tie or take the lead and win, that's not something that you ideally want to be in if you're the 49ers. And that's what it came down to. So unfortunately, the 49ers ended up on the wrong side of things there.
The last time this happened with San Francisco, it seemed to cause Kyle Shanahan to go, I need to figure out something else going on with the quarterback. Brock Purdy, I thought, played really well in this game. But when you see Patrick Mahomes across the way exert his will on this one the way that he does it change anything, do you think, about the way the 49ers view this version of the team?
I'm not sure it changes anything. I think from my perspective and a lot of people's perspective, you knew that you need someone that is able to, go above the X's and O's. A lot of people like to say that. That's a popular phrase. And when you have to go up against a Mahomes, and even if it wasn't Mahomes, it would be a Lamar Jackson or it would be a Josh Allen. At some point, you're going to need someone that can outduel those guys. And, I talked about earlier about Brock Purdy had several opportunities. And if you go back to 2019, it was very similar. 49ers were able to score. They were able to get a 10-point lead, really, in both games. Yeah. And they needed their offense to make a few plays. They needed their quarterback to make a few plays. And in both instances, they weren't able to do that. So I think a lot of 49er fans, if we go on X, or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, and you look, there will be a lot of why wasn't Kyle Shanahan running the ball more? But in my opinion, it looked like the Kansas City Chiefs were saying, hey, we're going to load the box, we're going to load up against the run, and we're going to make your quarterback beat us. And now 2 times in a row, the quarterback wasn't able to do that.
2019 and now in 2023, it felt like for nearly the entire season, the 49ers were the best team. So how do you move forward then? What has to change for this team to get over the hump? Or is it just like get lucky enough to not have to play Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl? It's as simple as that.
It might be just get lucky enough to not have to play him. That was the big question for me with a lot of my, 49er people is where do you go from here if you lose this game? Last year you could say, well, you lost your quarterback in the conference championship game at the very beginning of the game. So, you get him back, you'll be a better team. But I don't know how much better the team can be. And even if you look at this defense, for most of this game, the defense played fairly well considering who they're going up against. And even if you look at this Kansas City Chiefs team, maybe not the best version of KC that we can see. A lot of guys coming on as the season went on, guys like Shea Rice, the running back position, you got Pacheco, and he was solid. But I don't know if this is the very best Kansas City Chiefs team that we'll see. And even then, you weren't able to beat that team because of who's at quarterback. So it's tough. And as a 49er content creator, podcaster, fan, that is a tough question. Where do you go from here? And I'm pretty sure a lot of people don't know.
Well, and that's going to be the big question they're going to have to answer over the next 6 or so months. As you look back at this game in, let's say, 5 years, what do you think will be the moment that you'll point to and go, this was where the game was really lost?
Oh, that's easy. And whether it's right now or 5 years from now, it'll be the same answer. Before the half, Kyle Shanahan had an opportunity to call timeouts with around a minute left, and he did not do it. He played it passive. Mina Kimes, she commented. She said, Croc, he's playing with the lead. That's why he's playing like that. He's not going to do it. And my rebuttal to that was, well, the Chiefs are going to get points right now, and they're going to get the ball back after halftime. If you are going to knock this team out, you have to be more aggressive. You have to be playing and calling the game to win. And I thought in that instance right there, that was a great opportunity for Kyle Shanahan to prove that. He didn't do it. He allowed a lot of time to milk off the clock. They ultimately got the ball back around one play, and from there the game ended up being a lot tighter than it potentially could have been otherwise. Now, would the 49ers have scored? We don't know, but to me, I look at that situation there and say that was a huge opportunity. Other people might point to a missed extra point, things like that, but to me, with the mindset, it is right there before halftime. The confidence that you're instilling in your offense and your defense, you had the opportunity to do it and you didn't.
Yeah, and he played extremely conservative in the divisional round against Green Bay, going for the field goal when they had time to be more aggressive, and that almost cost them in that one as well. That is the one play, Croc, it seems to me, that if you're going to criticize Kyle Shanahan, those moments when he can be aggressive, the go kick decisions in plus territory, that he still is not really where the rest of the league is in terms of being aggressive in those moments. He's an incredible, he's the scheme god. But why do you think in those moments he can get a little conservative?
He's saying that he's playing to the analytics. I think he just like everyone else has a guy that's in his ear and telling him the numbers, but ultimately it's up to him and he decides which way he wants to go with it. And in the Packers game, he said the analytics said kill the clock and kick an extra point or kick a field goal and then get the ball back at halftime. In this game, I'm curious to see what the analytics said there, but this was a little bit more different because, again, Kansas City had the opportunity to score even a touchdown at that time and was getting the ball back after the half. I thought the defense, for the most part, played as well as you would hope, holding a team down for most of the game. It just wasn't enough.
As someone who has covered the 49ers, I understand that the 80s was a long time ago, but people are saying that this is now 3 and 5 years for the Chiefs, that this is a dynasty from a 49ers perspective. Is it?
It's the greatest quarterback I've seen. Now, you referenced the 80s. I was born in 87. So it's not like I got to see, prime or any really much Montana at all, at a youthful age. But as far as quarterbacks go, we got to watch Tom Brady and how good he was. This is Patrick Mahomes being in four Super Bowls now in his 6 years and hasn't played in anything less than the conference championship game. It's hard to say that this isn't the best start to anyone's career and that he's not on a trajectory to be really the greatest thing we've ever seen at the quarterback position. And unfortunately for the 49ers, they've had to play against him twice now in the biggest game.
Feeling a little bit Utah Jazzy against Michael Jordan's Bulls a little bit right now.
I would say that's a great comparison with Stockton and Malone and how good they were, and they kept running into a guy named Michael Jordan.
Stay up to date all year on the San Francisco 49ers by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On 49ers on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. No, we didn't get a Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift proposal on the sidelines at the Super Bowl, but we did get Travis Kelce getting up close and personal with Andy Reid in the first half. Out of frustration, Kelce runs into Andy Reid and almost knocks him over, trying to make some kind of point. So what happened?
Yeah, he caught me off balance. I wasn't watching. He cheap shot, but that's all right. He did good. He was really coming over just put me in. I'll score. So that's really what it was. Well, I love that. I mean, it's not the first time. So I appreciate him.
I was just telling him how much I love him.
Yeah, he was emotional today. So I get it. Man, listen, I have 5 kids, so I get how that goes. The part I love is he loves to play the game. And he wants to help his team win. I mean, it's not a selfish thing. That's not what it is. And I understand that. And so as much as, he bumps into me, I get after him. And we understand that. He just caught me off balance.
Big missed opportunity to go, you need to calm down. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today, here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Coming up on the next Locked On Sports Today, how different will the Philadelphia Eagles look next season? So at least until tomorrow, stay locked on sports today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
For more episodes of Locked On Sports Today, go to our video on demand. Click on Sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.